Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a powerful buffed Pokemon in the Ultra League that unfortunately, I personally do not have, and that is Galarian Moltres. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community and fellow content creators there, Felrose, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, while me personally, I do have a Galarian Moltres for the Great League, I do not have one for the Ultra League, and the Ultra League, in my view, is its best league. With the addition of Fly to its moveset, Galarian Moltres now has consistency that it could never dream of previously, and Zair pairs it up with a Dragalge and a Primeape. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, picking up a very negative lead in game number 1 as Dragalge is leading into Lapras. The safe switch into the Primeape is answered with a Jellicent, and Jellicent is really not going to appreciate the healthy energy head start that Primeape has here. Primeape is a Rage Fist spam machine. Back-to-back Rage Fists launched at the Jellicent. Jellicent does have enough for the Shadow Ball. We see the bait call here by Zair. It is the Surf, a big misplay from the opponent, and that's going to cost them shield advantage or switch advantage. Opponent is going to go for the shield and farm down route, as Primeape is not going to get the next Rage Fist. But Dragalge is more than happy to absorb energy here, with the knowledge that Dragalge is not going to have much play in this game considering the Lapras lead. So Dragalge is going to go for the full acid farm down. Jellicent able to make one final charge attack. It is going to be another Shadow Ball, and Dragalge does exit with the Aqua Tail loaded. In comes Galarian Moltres into the Lapras, and opponent is staying in to fire off some energy. Hopefully this means that Galarian Moltres is going to be strong in the back. Opponent is going to bring out Feraligatr as their final Pokemon, and they are very weak to Moltres. Now this Moltres is running Payback as its nuke move. Obviously Moltres can very easily run Fly Brave Bird as well, but Payback does offer coverage in case you get stuck against a Belly Bolt. Moltres, after already landing one Fly, going to fire off Fly number 2. Down goes Feraligatr as the opponent is going to save their final shield for Lapras. Farming up a ton of energy. Switch and the catch onto Dragalge. Say it ain't so. Dragalge low on health but absorbing that Ice Beam. And now back in comes the Moltres. Moltres is going to be launching a Fly at the bulky Lapras. Lapras with a shield call to make will commit the shield just to get knocked out with a Payback. Galarian Moltres flying high. Down goes Lapras. And that is a good game. We move to game number 2, picking up a pretty solid lead for Dragalge, leading into Galarian Weezing. Now, if Galarian Weezing is running its typical moveset, which is Sludge Overheat, then they're actually completely walled here, so they need to be running Brutal Swing or Play Rough if they don't want to be walled off. And for Dragalge, Dragalge is more than happy to no shield. It is going to be the Play Rough. Opponent sends in Jellicent, and they're going to regret that decision as in comes Galarian Moltres. Galarian Moltres is going to be able to generate such an advantage in this mid-game as 2 Surfs do not knock out. So for Moltres, you can very comfortably absorb both moves and then look to overfarm as much as possible. Moltres can now farm up 4 Sucker Punches, firing off the Payback on very good timing. Opponent may try and call a Fly here, but a Payback will absolutely KO. In comes Galarian Weezing. Galarian Weezing can go for a 1 shield farm down, which could get a little uncomfortable. So not going to let that happen. Going to just send in Dragalge and unleash Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is going to be no shielded. And now a tough call to make. Is it the Play Rough or is it the Sludge Bait? We see the shield. It is the Play Rough. That's a very important shield. And now in comes Feraligatr. Feraligatr going to get absolutely rocked by Outrage if they decide to let it through. So they will end up committing the shield and they can now fully farm down. The Aqua Tail is reached, and this is genuinely valuable chip damage. The Aqua Tail is going to land, but that's still a pretty healthy Feraligatr. In comes the Moltres. Opponent is just going to fire off a Hydro Cannon, and now it's going to be up to Primeape to try and close out this game. In comes Primeape. This Hydro Cannon will do big damage, so we are going to see the shield used. Primeape going to look to overfarm here. There's a catch attempt onto the Galarian Weezing. The catch attempt is unsuccessful. Nice job overfarming here. Rage Fist is going to pick up the KO. Back in comes Feraligatr, and the +1 Rage Fist. It's going to be game over for the opponent, as that will KO Feraligatr. We move to the next match. Dragalge staring down a Skeleturge. Now that's a Pokemon I have not seen in quite some time. Opponent safe switches. What is this? Into a Galarian Articuno, and we have the battle of the Galar Birds. Galarian Articuno, it's running Ancient Power and it gets the boost. Oh my goodness. The opponent getting the 10% chance there. And now, this makes it a lot more uncomfortable for the Galarian Moltres. A boosted Fly will actually KO, or in this case, they're just firing off the Ancient Power. Either way, they will still do the same damage, and the opponent gets one final move that boosts paying massive dividends. So the opponent is now going to send out a Blastoise. Blastoise rollouts obviously hitting for super effective damage, but the Moltres still has a ton of energy. Payback is going to land. There's a switch, a catch, and a sneak, catching the Hydro Cannon onto Dragalge. In comes Skeledirge. And for Dragalge's just in a great spot here. No one move from the Skeledirge is going to be enough to knock out Dragalge, even at this health range. Opponent's going to throw an alignment. They're hoping against hope that a Shadow Ball will KO, but it's just not going to KO. Dragalge is able to hang on. Dragalge can even survive the Incinerate as well, so throwing 2 acids and the move. And now, one final Aqua Tail for the road. The spam of Dragalge, just far too much. In comes Primeape just to force the opponent to fire off some energy here. Primeape is going to be hit with a Torch Song. There's the switch into Galarian Moltres as the opponent sends in Blastoise. Blastoise is going to get knocked out by a Fly. In comes Skeledirge, and that's just getting Sucker Punched down. We move to the next match, and we've got a battle of poison types as Dragalge stares down Tentacruel. Obviously, Tentacruel can often run Blizzard. This Tentacruel is on Acid, which is a bit of a surprise. Poison Sting usually going to be the move you want to go for in the Ultra League. Outrage is going to connect, dealing big damage. This is enough acids for a Blizzard, so Dragalge has a call to make. Last second shield, and it proves to be a good one as the opponent full sends. Dragalge can now look to overfarm slightly, looking to just pick up the knockout here with the Outrage. Does the opponent try to call the bait? No, they are going to invest the shield. Unfortunately, on this team, there's no Ice Resist, so there's not even something you really want to catch a Blizzard on, and it ends up being a Scald bait. Aggressive switch out into the Primeape. Primeape going to get outpaced here. This Scald is going to hurt. That's big damage onto the Primeape. Out comes Shadow Gliscor, and this is by no means a decent response to a Primeape safe switch. Ice Punch will hit for big damage. Opponent forced to commit a shield, and they will fire off their charge attack instantly here to not let Primeape get Ice Punch number 2. Aerial Ace will pick up the knockout. In comes Dragalge. Dragalge outside of Aerial Ace range, and this means the opponent will have to get to an Earthquake if they want to pick up the KO. Obviously, if they want chip damage, they could go for the Aerial Ace, but that would just not be enough to knock out. This Aqua Tail won't knock out either. The switch into Moltres. Moltres gets the snipe down. Opponent, they're sitting there, and they resign the match. Whatever they had in bag did not want to see Galarian Moltres. Looks like that was a 5-0 set, and now we move into set number 2. Great lead for Dragalge as it's going to be met with Virizion. Opponent safe switches into Drapion. It's actually the non-Shadow Drapion, and that's going to be answered with Primeape. The most common third with Virizion lead and Drapion as the safe switch is going to be Belly Bolt as a closer. So if that's the case, then Dragalge is obviously going to be really strong into the remainder of their team. So the opponent is going to be no shielding the Ice Punch. Aqua Tail is going to connect. The next Ice Punch will not be enough to knock out here, so if Zaire wants switch advantage, he will have to commit a shield. Honestly, if you make the read that it's Belly Bolt, I think it's fine to just let it go and farm with Dragalge, but it looks like he's actually going to make a play for alignment. The good news is he's going to get an Ice Punch into this Virizion. In comes the Virizion. Oh, but he accidentally throws one Karate Chop too many. Doesn't get the move. And in the back, that's not a Belly Bolt. It's going to be Galarian Moltres versus Galarian Moltres. Missing that Ice Punch is really unfortunate. The opponent actually running Ancient Power as well. Fun fact, a super effective Ancient Power in the Galarian Moltres mirror does the exact same damage as a neutral Fly, because Ancient Power is a very bad move, and Fly is a much better move. Ancient Power is going to be shielded. These Sucker Punches are adding up. It looks like the opponent does have a pretty bad IV Galarian Moltres. The Fly is going to be picking up the knockout. In comes Dragalge, and the opponent has 2 shields left on their Virizion, but Virizion, it's just never getting through Dragalge. They realize it. They throw a bad Manners Leaf Blade, and they will resign the match. We move to the next game, and we have a bit of an awkward lead here, as Dragalge is going to be staring down for Alligator. Obviously, Ice Beam would hit for massive damage, but the opponent doesn't even build up. They just go for the crunch. They throw a Hydro Cannon bait, but you always have to build up even if you don't have the Ice Beam to try and bluff it, because if you throw on 6, no one is going to be respecting a neutral crunch. The opponent, again, they're continuing to farm. Now we will see the shield from Dragalge. This is going to be another Hydro Cannon bait from the Feraligatr, and now looking to unleash the Outrage. This Outrage will do quite a bit of damage, picking up the knockout if it lands, which it does not. And now the Dragalge is low enough that Hydro Cannon will actually pick up the KO. But this does potentially set up a really nice Sucker Punch farm down for the Galarian Moltres, and that's exactly what he's going to go for here, because Galarian Moltres up energy can put in a tremendous amount of work. The opponent has already shown they do not have Ice Beam, so gonna be no shield in the first Hydro. Unfortunately, another move reached by the Feraligatr means another Hydro Cannon is gonna land, and the final shield of the match is being saved for Primeape. It's gonna be a Cobalion in the back, they're gonna switch out, and it's Galarian Weezing, and this is just not a winnable game, unfortunately. Oh my goodness. Realistically, Galarian Weezing is just always going to sweep this backline here. If the Galarian Moltres had Brave Bird, then at the very least this game would be slightly closer, but unfortunately, there's just no way of beating that Galarian Weezing, as Galarian Weezing is at the back-to-back Sludges, and Sludge is just going to do too much damage here. Sludge lands into the Primeape. Primeape is going to be making it to one final Rage Fist. This will KO the Weezing, but the damage has been done. Cobalion will get to pick up the knockout, and Galarian Moltres just doesn't have the energy needed to take home this game. Galarian Moltres will be able to make it to a fly, but it would need a second charge attack, and it just cannot get there as it gets fully double kicked down. We move to the next game, looking for a bit of redemption from the last game, and it's a tricky lead, staring down Jellicent with Dragalge. The save switch into Primeape, very nice timing here, throwing on 5. This is the perfect understanding of what is the correct timing when you're behind by a turn, because obviously switching from a lead matchup does cost you 1 turn. So that's very well executed there. Opponent now going to send in Virizion. Boosted Ice Punch will not knock out, but it will deal a pretty solid amount of damage. The Ice Punch does get shielded up by the opponent. They're going to go for a Leaf Blade, and Leaf Blade, while it will do a lot here, will not knock out. So the nice thing here is we're actually going to see the saving of the energy and an aggressive pivot back into Dragalge. Dragalge obviously walls off the moveset here from Virizion. Virizion throws a double resisted Leaf Blade. You definitely want to throw Sacred Sword here because Sacred Sword obviously is only single resisted. The opponent, now realizing it, is going to go for the Sacred Sword. They can pivot out. They should not be staying in here. They can switch out. But the opponent, I guess, maybe not paying attention to the switch clocks, and that's going to cost them as they get fully farmed down. Oh, that is devastating. That's a huge error from the opponent. In comes Jellicent. Jellicent now going to get smacked with an Outrage. This Outrage will do big damage. In comes Galarian Moltres, and in the back is going to be a Wing Attack Shadow Charizard. These battles are pre-rank 20, obviously. Shadow Charizard, even with Ember, unfortunately is still not really a thing that should be used because the pacing is just very mediocre. Moltres is going to call the bait, and that's just the absolute death blow to the Charizard here. There's no hope remaining. Dragon Claw is shielded. Fly is going to pick up the knockout. So down goes the Charizard. And all that's left is that Jellicent. Jellicent gonna make one final surf on 1 HP. Galarian Moltres still does not get KO'd. And Karate Chop Snipe from the Primeape is going to take the win. We move to the next match. Dragalge going to be staring down another Virizion. The Dream Lead. Opponent is going to have to pivot out of here instantly. And they do. They send out an Ultra League Clodsire. This is not a real Pokemon. I guess the opponent's just looking to have some fun here, but this is not a competitive Pokemon by any means. We see a catch attempt onto the Galarian Moltres, but now Moltres is probably going to get hit with a Stone Edge here. Stone Edge does do quite a bit of damage, even from the Clodsire that doesn't get to 2500 combat power, but man, Clodsire in the Ultra League, I have officially seen it all. Now going to go for the payback here, as Fly would probably not be enough to KO. I don't know how bulky this thing is, but payback plus the Sucker Punches will be able to pick up the knockout. In comes Virizion, and due to this Fly pacing, able to make the Fly and force a shield from the opponent, which is absolutely awful for the opponent. Now we see an aggressive pivot out into Dragalge, and in the back is Belly Bolt. And they are just completely core broken to smithereens by Dragalge. What are they going to do? Virizion is stuck throwing resisted moves. Belly Bolt is stuck throwing resisted moves. This is just an absolute worst case scenario for the opponent. Dragalge now going to fire off Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail will not pick up the knockout. Opponent is going to be letting that through. Dragalge going for another Aqua Tail, and this one will be enough to pick up the knockout here. Aqua Tail will get the KO. In comes Virizion. And, I mean, Sacred Sword just doesn't KO. It's single resisted. Dragalge has the bulk. They go for a Leaf Blade here. People just really not knowing, with Dragalge not really having been a meta Pokemon before, people not really knowing the typing, and it keeps costing them. I mean, realistically, either way, Virizion is still going to be losing to Dragalge, but at the very least, you want to throw the correct move there. We're going to see the Ice Punch land. It looks like the Primeape did actually get one turn Bring and Lag there, so that's why that's a CMB tie when it should not have been. Primeape is going to get a Sucker Punch farm down and be able to take that game. All in all, I think that Galarian Moltres is absolutely a top meta threat in this new Open Ultra League meta, and that makes the fact that I personally don't have an Ultra League Moltres even more unfortunate. The good news is this season is one of the best opportunities we've ever had to get a Galarian Moltres, because Daily Adventure Incense this season, running from June through September, is doubled in the time duration. It's 30 minutes instead of 15, so you do have double the opportunity every day to try and get one of these Galarian Moltres. I've been doing the Daily Adventure Incense walks most days. I still haven't seen one yet, but I do have a Master Ball available. So if I do end up encountering one below 2500, I'm absolutely going to be using my final Master Ball on that, because Galarian Moltres is just absolutely unbelievable. Moltres in the Ultra League already had incredibly nice bulk. It's able to absorb the hits that in the Great League might be a little bit threatening, but especially like in, let's say, a Shadow Drapion matchup, it can tank those Aqua Tails so effortlessly, and now having a cheaper consistent move like Fly just really improves its consistency as a Mon and makes it, to me, probably a top 5 to top 10 Ultra League Mon. It also has incredibly good synergy with a lot of other buffed Pokemon. If you want to run a little more anti-meta, you could run something like Scizor plus Moltres. If you're trying to run something more meta, then you could run like Tentacruel plus Moltres, Dragalge plus Moltres. So there's a lot of different combinations that you can have. And obviously I know Bellibolt is around, but there are some pretty solid options that you can pair with it that can cover its weaknesses pretty decently for the most part. For Galarian Moltres' moveset, I have seen a few on Payback, but I think overall the consensus is going to be that Fly Brave Bird is going to be the moveset to go for. In a meta where people are testing out Bellibolt, and especially Bellibolt with Sucker Punch, I can see some merit towards Payback, just so that way you have a charge move that can actually hit Bellibolt for neutral damage. But I think in neutral matchups, the ability to farm just a bit past the Fly and have a Brave Bird, which is an incredible damage per energy move, will probably mean that moveset will win out in the long run. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching the content, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.